So yes, this recording is going to have this in it.
Hi, this is Rob. Welcome to Math Antics. In this lesson, we're going to learn about 3 important math concepts called the mean, the median, and the mode. Math often deals with data sets, and data sets are often just collections or groups of numbers. These numbers may be the results of scientific measurements, or surveys, or other data collection methods. For example, you might record the ages of each member of your family into a data set. Or you might measure the weight of each of your pets and list them in a data set. Those data sets are fairly small and easy to understand. But you could have much bigger data sets. A really big data set might contain the cost of every item in a store, or the top speed of every landmass, or the brightness of all the stars in our galaxy. Those data sets would contain a lot of different numbers. And if you had to look at a big data set all at one time, it would be pretty hard to make sense of it or say much about it besides, well, that's a lot of numbers. But that's where mean, median, and mode can really help us out. There are 3 different properties of data sets that can give us useful, easy to understand information about the data set so that we can see the big picture and understand what the data means about the world we live in. That sounds pretty useful, huh? So let's learn what each property really is and find out how to calculate them for any particular data set. Let's start with the mean. You may not have ever heard of something called the mean before, but I'll bet you've heard of the average. If so, then I've got good news. Mean means average. Mean and average are just 2 different terms for the exact same property of a data set. The mean, or average, is an extremely useful property. To understand what it is, let's look at a simple data set that contains 5 numbers. As a visual aid, let's also represent those numbers with stacks of blocks whose heights correspond to their values. 1, 8, 3, 2, 6. Right now, since each of the 5 numbers is different, the stacks of blocks are all different heights. But what if we rearrange the blocks with the goal of making the stacks the same height? In other words, if each stack could have the exact same amount, what would that amount be? Well, with a bit of trial and error, you'll see that we have enough blocks for each stack to have a total of 4. That means that the mean, or average, for our original data set would be 4. Some of the numbers are greater than 4, and some are less. But if the amounts could all be made the same, they would all become 4. So that's the concept of the mean. It's the value you'd get if you could smooth out or flatten all of the different data values into one consistent value. But is there a way that we could use math to calculate the mean of a data set? After all, it would be very inconvenient if we always had to use stacks of blocks to do it. There's got to be an easier way.
Okay, you should be paying attention.
To learn the mathematical procedure for calculating the mean, let's start with blocks again. But this time, instead of using trial and error, let's use a more systematic way to make the stacks all the same height. This way involves a clever combination of addition and division. We know that we want to end up with 5 stacks that all have the same number of blocks, right? So first, let's add up all of the numbers, which is like putting all of the blocks we have into one big stack. Adding up all of the numbers, or counting all the blocks, shows us that we have a total of 20. Next, we divide that number, or stack, into 5 equal parts. Since the stack has a total of 20 blocks, dividing it into 5 equal stacks means that we'll have 4 in each, since 20 divided by 5 equals 4. So that's the math procedure you use to find the mean of a data set.
Okay, I can't
Just
hear
2
you.
simple steps.
You have something to say, you have to
You
type
add up all the numbers in the set, and then you divide the total you get by how many numbers you added up. The answer you get is the mean of the data set. Let's use that procedure to find the mean age of the members of this fine-looking family here. If we add them all up using a calculator, or by hand if you'd like, the total of the ages is 222 years. But then, we need to divide that total by the number of ages we added, which is 6. 222 divided by 6 is 37. So that's the mean age of all the members in this family.
They all have his face.
All right, that's the mean. Now, what about the median? The median is the middle of a data set. It's the number that splits the data set into 2 equally sized groups or halves. One half contains members that are greater than or equal to the median, and the other half contains members that are less than or equal to the median. Sometimes finding the median of a data set is easy, and sometimes it's hard. That's because finding the middle value of a data set requires that its members be in order from the least to the greatest, or vice versa. And if the data set has a lot of numbers, it might take a lot of work to put them in the right order, if they aren't already that way. So to make things easier, let's start with a really basic data set that isn't in order. It's pretty easy to see that we can put this data set in order from the least to the greatest value just by switching the 2 and the 1. There, now we have the data set 1, 2, 3, and finding the median or middle of this data set is easy. It's just 2, because the 2 is located exactly in the middle. That almost seems too easy, doesn't it? Don't worry, it gets harder. But before we try a harder problem, I want to point out that sometimes the mean and the median of a data set are the same number, and sometimes they're not. In the case of our simple data set, 1, 2, 3, the median is 2, and the mean is also 2, as you can see if we rearrange the amounts or follow the procedure we learned to calculate the mean. But what about the first data set that we found the mean of? We determined that the mean of this data set is 4, but what about the median? Well, the median is the middle, and since this data set is already in order from least to greatest, it's easy to see that the 3 is located in the middle since it splits the other members into 2 equal groups. So for this data set, the mean is 4, but the median is 3. So to find the median of a set of numbers, first you need to make sure that all the numbers are in order, and then you can identify the member that's exactly in the middle by making sure there's an equal number of members on either side of it. Okay, so far so good. But some of you may be wondering, what if a data set doesn't have an obvious middle member? All of the sets we've found the median of so far have an odd number of members. But what if a set has an even number of members, like the data set 1, 2, 3, 4? There isn't a member in the middle that splits the set into 2 equally sized groups. If that's the case, we can actually use what we learned about the mean to help us out. If the data set has an even number of members, then to find the median, we need to take the middle 2 numbers and calculate the mean or average of those 2. By doing that, we're basically figuring out what number would be exactly halfway between the 2 middle numbers, and that number will be our median. For example, in the set 1, 2, 3, 4, we need to take the middle 2 numbers, 2 and 3, and find the mean of those numbers. We can do that by adding 2 and 3, and then dividing by 2. 2 plus 3 equals 5, and 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So the median of the data set is 2.5. Even though the number 2.5 isn't actually a member of the data set, it's the median because it represents the middle of the data set and it splits the members into 2 equally sized groups. Okay, so now you know the difference between mean and median, but what about the mode of a data set? What in the world does that mean? Well, mode is just a technical word for the value in a data set that occurs most often. In the data sets we've seen so far, there hasn't even been a mode because none of the data values were ever repeated. But what if you had this data set? This set has 6 members, but some of the values are repeated. If we rearrange them, you can see that there's 1, 1, 2 2s, and 3 3s. The mode of this data set is the value that occurs most often or most frequently, so that would be 3 since there's 3 3s. Now don't get confused just because the number 3 was repeated 3 times. The mode is the number that's repeated most often, not how many times it was repeated. As I mentioned, if each member in a data set occurs only once, it has no mode. But it's also possible for a data set to have more than one mode. Here's an example of a data set like that. In this set, the number 7 is repeated twice, but so is the number 15. That means they tie for the title of mode. This set has 2 modes, 7 and 15. Okay, so now that you know what the mean, median, and mode of a data set are, let's put all that new information to use in one final real-world example. Suppose there's this guy who makes and sells custom electric guitars. Here's a table showing how many guitars he sold during each month of the year. Let's find the mean, median, and mode of this data set. First, to find the mean, we need to add up the number of guitars sold in each month. You can do the addition by hand or you can use a calculator if you want to. Either way, be careful since that's a lot of numbers to add up and we don't want to make a mistake. The answer I get is 108. So that's the total he sold for the whole year. But to get the mean sold each month, we need to divide that total by the number of months, which is 12. 108 divided by 12 is 9. So the mean, or average, is 9. Next, to find the median of the data set, we're going to have to rearrange the 12 data points in order from smallest to largest so we can figure out what the middle value is. There, that's better. Since there's an even number of members in this set, we can't just choose the middle number. So we're going to have to pick the middle 2 numbers and then find the mean of them. 9 and 10 are in the middle since there's an equal number of data values on either side of them. So we need to take the mean of 9 and 10. That's easy. 9 plus 10 equals 19, and then 19 divided by 2 is 9.5. So the median number of guitars sold is 9.5. That means that in half of the months, he sold more than 9.5, and in half of the months, he sold less than 9.5. Last of all, let's identify the mode of this data set, if there is one. Well, let's see. There's 2 8s in the data set. Oh, but there's 3 10s. That looks like the most frequent number. So 10 is the mode of this data set. It's the result that occurred most often. All right, so that's the basics of mean, median, and mode. There are 3 really useful properties of data sets, and now you know how to find them. But sometimes the hardest part about mean, median, and mode is just remembering which is which. So remember that mean means average, median is in the middle, and mode starts with MO, which can remind you that it's the number that occurs most often. Remember, to get good at math, you need to do more than just watch videos about it. You need to practice. So be sure to try.
Practice. All right. Okay, so we're moving over to paper now. Make sure you have a pencil. Let's see. All right, so all right, so tell me something that you learned about mean, median, or mode. Now wake up. Tell me.
The median is like in the middle.
Median's in the middle. Good. Ava? Uh-huh. Madison?
Mean is like the I know it's the
Average. Mm-hmm. Which one were you going to say?
I was gonna say that, but wait, you divide it by what?
Depending on how many things you are adding together.
Oh yeah, you divide by.
If, like, in the example, when he was finding the median, and he just had to find the average of the 2 numbers in the middle, he's only adding 2 numbers together, so he's going to divide by 2. Okay, so let's get started. We finished our geometry unit, and we're moving on. Put that up. We're moving on to data. So we're going to be dealing with graphs. And this used to be over on the back wall, over by Lucian. But now I moved it up there. So data set is just the numbers in a set. All right. We're going to learn today mean and median, maybe a little mode. Okay, and then we're going to hit range another time. So if you forget, you can always check here. Lucian, what were you going to say?
The sum.
Huh?
Sum.
Sum is the answer when you add things together. Alrighty then. Measure of center is a way of summarizing the data. Summarizing the data. So if I had like 1,000 numbers in a data set, I could use, please stop playing. I could use things like the median or the mode to summarize what was going on. If I had to give them the big idea of what happened in that data set, I would use those numbers to summarize. We're also going to use those when we do box plots and dot plots. We'll be using mean, median, and mode. All right. The mean is a measure of center in which the average, summarizing, the average of the data is taken. It can be found by finding the sum. First we have to add them up. The sum of all the data points. Second step is dividing. dividing by the number of data points. So if I'm adding up 3 things, I'll have to divide by 3. If I'm adding up 8 things, I'll have to divide by 8. Elijah, let's get to work. Do you have a pencil? The mean can be thought of as determining the fair share. Like everyone gets the same amount, they get the fair share. So what I want you to do is count up the number of gumballs in each gumball machine without blurting any answers and write the totals underneath. Count up the bubble gums, write the totals.
Oh.
Without blurting. Wait, how many bubble gums are in each machine?
21. No, 31.
Stop saying that number.
He said 21 first. Yes, it is 21. This one, man. 0.
Add them up. Or count them up. I guess this. You're on this.
I'll go get a glass of water.
Nope. We're working. All right, how many did you get for this first container?
11.
How about this one?
5. Yo, guess what? This looks like a No, it looks
Okay, so when I add them all together,
like 24.
24. So first step was to add them. 11 plus 5 plus 8 gets me 24. And to get this,
21.
the mean or the average, we're going to divide by however many things are in our set. I have got 3 numbers in my set, so I'm dividing by 3. And that's a fact that y'all should know. 3 times what is 24?
21.
Can you
stop saying 1?
8. Yes. The mean or the average equals 8.
Imagine it was 21.
Hey, you stop saying that. We've all asked you nicely, right? And you're not letting it go. All right. Did y'all get that?
Yep.
Let's move on to the next. Okay. So use your understanding of mean to answer the questions below. Oh, start adding up those numbers. You got a calculator? Yeah, this is Miss Blue.
Dude, solve it.
Okay, sure. Not right now, Brennan, but towards the end of class, Mr. Monk wants to see it.
Oh my god.
Okay, if you have a calculator on your phone, you can use that, because I don't have enough for everybody.
Can we use it?
Okay, leave all your stuff here.
He's talking to my God. No.
Anyone else need a phone?
I
got a phone.
Yeah, I'll take a photo.
All right. Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm gonna check your number if you added them all up. Make sure you have the right number. Here we go. Give me a number. Please.
He's a child. Literally.
Divided by however many many numbers you added together.
I have to divide by 8.
Okay, so I'm putting a dot on your paper if you are at the
I know
point
the
that I
answer.
expect you.
I got
What? You waited.
it.
No.
Oh, let it go.
I bet you won't.
I got it.
Okay, give me a minute. Okay, I'm seeing some answers that aren't right.
Am I right?
That just says that.
I need to
with it.
100.
I gave you
Okay,
one.
it's the money, not me.
Where's in the
Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry. I was wondering.
Okay. Pretty sure I did. Is there one there? Good. All right. So, when you have decimals, I like to put these together. When I add a large group, I like to cluster them. So 9.5 plus 10.5. Well, 9 plus 10 is 19. Half plus a half is 1, so that's going to be 20 right there. These two make 5, 25. These two make 12, these 23. And these two make 20. Now I'm going to put my 20s together. That gives me 40 plus 25 plus 23. There's no right way to do this as long as you get the right answer. You can go in any order.
Oh, I knew the answer. I already got it.
So when you added them up, you should get 88. Now, my next step to get the mean is to divide my 88 by however many numbers were in my set. Well, let me double check. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 88 divided by 8. Okay. Yep. Okay, let's try the next one. Add up those numbers. Hope you have a calculator because there's a bunch.
Yo, I can't.
If you don't, work with a neighbor who does. Or take them in chunks like I do.
I do it in calculator style.
Yeah. Cheating style. The nice slice to it.
79.
Oh, no. I'm just kidding.
What's the song? Yo. What's the song?
I don't. Ah! What?
Oh. Just shut up. I was teaching Brennan something about
Aiden, stop playing. Did you get your total when you added them up? Yep, you got it. You got it.
Brennan, why do you have to?
Okay, once you get your grand total, divide it by the numbers in the set. Your sum should be 490, number 2. I know, 490. If you added them all up, you should have gotten 490.
For what?
Sum.
What? 490 divided by what?
How many numbers are in your set?
Because I got 629.
How?
Because it's 29.
No, 28.
So we divided by 2.
Okay, no. how many numbers are in our set. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 490, that's my sum, divided by 10,
29.
So remember, when we divide by 10, we're just moving a decimal over. Any thoughts on that? Stop playing, guys.
You took my calculator.
Mm.
You took my mechanical pencil.
All right, so this next question is a little different. This is a little different because these are not necessarily the numbers we're going to use. It's only kind of the numbers we're going to use because we have frequency, which tells me how many times that number showed up. All right, the following data set represents the number of times the phone rings when callers contact Comcast. Okay, so I'm going to list out the numbers, but I have to pay attention to how often they show up. Aiden. So we're writing out our numbers. I need 2 number 4s. I have 1 5. I have 2 6s. I don't have any 7s. I have 2 8s. And I have 1 9. The frequency tells me how many times that number showed up. Okay? So I had to rewrite them. Does that make sense? All right. So from here, add them up, see what you get for your sum, and then find the mean. And your answer will be a decimal, actually, for this one.
How many sevens are there?
There's no 7s. That's why I crossed it out.
Oh, really?
So now we gotta find the
We're going to find the mean, the middle, the average. So add them up and get your sum.
But that means
I'm rewriting my numbers, so I have 2 number 4s. Now, you have to write the numbers out like I did. So add plus just tell me to write number 4 2 times. So 4 plus number 5 gets 1.
No, 7.
No 7. All right? Add them up, add them up, add them up. Nope.
I told you. So,
What did you get?
this is
Nope. Look. Yeah, nope. For the sums, nope.
Did we get answers?
Yours is.
Oh.
this answer. No. No, that's not the that's not the correct answer. This is answer. No.
Ha. Your answer should be less than 60.
Chicken nuggets.
This bread.
Again, is the measure.
And then you
Alrighty, let's see how you did.
I'm almost done.
Hold on. I've got, you know what? I can make 10 with 4 and 6. I'm going to make 10 with 4 and 6. There's 20. There's 25. 25 plus 8 gets me to 33. 33. 25 plus, yeah. Plus another 8. 41. Plus another 9. 50. So I'm at 50. And to get the average or the mean, we're going to divide by however many numbers were in our set. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And then you should do
If you do not have a calculator, you have to go with the old-fashioned way. Okay, 50 minus 48 gets me to, oh, I need to add a decimal and some zeros here. How many times does 8 go into 20?
No, 10 times.
Try twice. 2 times 8 is 16. I'm going to get 4. Oh, got it. Bring down another 0. 8 goes into 40 how many times? Okay, Brennan, I need you to start packing up your stuff. Okay. We good here? We ready to move on?
We're ready.
All right. Okay, the median is a measure of center in which the middle, so instead of Malcolm in the middle, it's median in the middle of the data is determined. It can be found by ordering the data from least to greatest. Quiet, please. Okay, if you don't reorder your data from least to greatest, your answer is going to be wrong. Okay, so when we find median, we have to order them from least to greatest.
Yeah.
Check the back, and then determine the middle of the data set. Median in the middle. If there's not a middle number, then you have to find the average or the mean. The mean, average.
Oh, I know what it is.
Okay, so I don't think we have time to do this big mambo jumbo one here. So let's do number 5. Okay, the first thing you have to do is order your numbers. Ladies, let's keep working. So I'm going to look at this. I'm on number 5, and I'm going to ask myself, my smallest number is 0. How many zeros do I have?
2.
2, so I'm going to write it twice. 0, 0. 1, how many ones do I have? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And next number is 2. I have 2 2s, and I have a 3. Okay. So, to find the middle of this, one thing that I always try to remember to do when I rewrite a set of numbers is I count the numbers in the set, because chances are I might have made a mistake. So I'm going to count, see how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I should have 9 that I rewrote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Huh? Say what? I rewrote them in order from least to greatest.
You skipped 4.
I know, because this takes a lot more time than we only have a few minutes of class lunch.
Yeah. Are we gonna do it?
I don't know. We'll see if we have time.
Oh, those are long.
All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is from the outside to the inside, I'm going to find the middle number. So usually, a lot of times you'll see people take one from the outside from left and then one from the outside to the right, which is fine. All right, what's in the middle here is 1. Mm-hmm. Okay. But now number 4 is a little different. On number 5, we had an odd number in the set, so we actually had one number in the middle. This one is a little kind of a monster. It's got a lot of numbers, and there's not one in the middle. So I'm going to rewrite these numbers. Aiden, your turn to write, too. So how many zeros do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Then I'm going to see how many ones I have. 1, 2. Then, I have a 1.5. Got that. And let's see, I got 2 2s. 2 and 2. I have a 3. I have a 3.5. I have a 6 and an 8. I should have 14 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Wait, why do I have 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 14. All right, so on the last one, I went from one on the right, one on the left, one on the right, one on the left, crossing out as I come inside. But with this many numbers, I can take a chunk off of each side. So I'm going to take 4 off the left, and I'm going to take 4 off the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, looks like I can take 1 and 1, and then 1 and 1. Oh, see, this time, since I have an even number in my set, I have 2 numbers in the middle. So that means I have to find the average, or the mean, of 1 and 1.5. So we're going to add those together.
2.5.
And then I have to divide that by 2 because I added 2 numbers together. So 2.5. See why I didn't want to do this one first? Divided by 2. 1. Bring down my 5. Twice. Right. That would be,
Yeah, it's 1.25. Big.
So my median here, 1.25.
I had that before,
Good.
but I erased it because I thought I was wrong.
Okay. Well,
Because I didn't do the zero.
okay. Even though we didn't add on this one. Okay. 0 is part of the set, so I have to count how many zeros I have, but it's not like I'm adding these all together. Okay, so make sure your name is on this paper.
21.
And period 5.
Say 1.
I only had kids.
All right. Can I get somebody to collect those papers for me,
I'll do it.
please? Brennan, I asked you to leave, remember?
Oh, you did? I thought you said at the end of the
Brennan, go. I told you to go 5 minutes ago.
I thought you said at the end of the
Huh? Huh? Okay, can you go collect calculators for me? What? Thank you.
Wait, can I collect? I guess not. Just like, who's collecting the papers?
Hmm?
Who's collecting the papers?
Who is? Oh, somebody. Somebody help me out. Collect papers.
Lucian. Where are you going?
If you borrowed a pencil, I need my pencils back.
Sorry, I'm using the bag.
Okay, so collecting pencils and papers.
I won't go.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Chloe, thank you for helping. All right, let's get packed up because I'm going to make a bathroom.
So, wait.
That's all I know.
I'm glad you're like the one.
I need a new bathroom.
Yo, it's the $50. I had a $50 Amazon gift card.
All right, y'all have a wonderful afternoon.
I don't know what you're talking about. Family
Bye.
If I get a $50 Amazon gift card, 99 cents is a lot.